I think many of you are eager to see. A wide receiver for the New York Jets. Great to have you. So glad to have you.
Thank you.
And my friend, Rudy Klein-Thomas, who is, but I was looking at your bio because founder and managing partner of Mastery, but you do so many things. I can't even keep track of all the things you do, but you help technology companies, you help sports figures, you help, you do investing, and you also run a sports and technology conference every year. So you're sort of become the glue between the sports, especially basketball and football, I think, industry and technology and business. So I'll let Richard find out more, but eager to hear the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Hey, Rudy, it's weird. He didn't say that we were the ones that they came to see.
No,
He just,
no.
no, it's all right. We'll get over it. So we're here to talk about the intersection of sports and investing and technology. And let me start with you, Rudy, because you, as David suggested, you've kind of become a mentor in that space for athletes. And that's not really how you started your career. And I wonder if you could just walk us through how you got to that point.
Sure.
And why.
Sure. I started as a sports agent. So I started in 2000 out of Providence College. And I was a finance and accounting major. And I thought the only way to apply my two passions, which were sports and finance, was to possibly be an agent. I've always had the idea of helping athletes become businessmen.
Yeah.
You know, I'd always had a penchant for finance and for entrepreneurship, and the fact that I didn't, play professional sports, I always wanted to help these guys.
Yeah, so let me pause. You say you've always had that idea of helping athletes become businessmen. That's not it's not like wanting to become an astronaut or something.
Right.
How'd you get that? Where'd that come from?
I think I always realized the power that the athletes had, that they weren't really exercising. So I realized that at a very young age. And again, I thought the only way to do that was as a sports agent, and I realized very quickly that I was being a babysitter more so than applying what I learned in school. So I quickly pivoted after a couple of years to being a wealth planner, and did that for 10 years before getting into tech.
And then from a wealth planner to a kind of a more of an investor being part of your identity.
Correct.
I mean, you've invested in Allbirds and Uber and Limebike and Casper, a whole bunch of things. Talk about that transition from wealth manager to investor.
So around 2007, we realized, my partners and I realized that most of our returns were coming from tech companies. And I just had a penchant to say, you know what, we need to get in here a little bit earlier. So I literally just started going out to San Francisco on my own to as many conferences as possible, and started making relationships with the right VCs. And luckily enough, I met Josh Koppelman in 2008. Right. He was in Philadelphia at the same time, and he taught me the entire business, and was my Rolodex started from that standpoint on.
So Quincy, I want to hear a little bit about your side of the story. So I automatically like Quincy when we met outside because I confessed to him that I'm a lifelong Giants fan, and he forgave me for that. So, but I'm coming over. He's winning me over. I know you're from California originally. You went to Nebraska. You had the longest pass from pass completion, 99 yards, right? That's a record there, and the
I didn't even realize you were that fast.
The offensive player of the year, your senior year. And then you got drafted sixth. And that's, not a terrible draft, but it's not like number one.
No.
But you really made yourself an important part of the team.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, and then how you kind of came to work with Rudy and that journey.
Yeah, so I say, I guess being the son of immigrants, I've always, that kind of hard work and passion has always been kind of instilled in me. So
Where are your parents from?
Nigeria. My mom actually came about a month and a half before I was born.
Wow.
I don't even know if you're really supposed to do that, but no, he was determined.
I think you're not, actually.
But I think, just always, having that hard work put in me, it kind of just made me fight that much harder than everybody else. Being a 6th round draft pick, you see guys, they get cut all the time. It's a cutthroat business. The guys that were drafted with me, I got drafted with 12 guys, and I'm the only one left now, 6 years later. So it's really tough out there, and I think that that kind of has made me become who I am today. And so it's always made me kind of want to do more, become more, be a better person. So starting about 2 years ago, I actually was injured, and I was out for the whole year, had neck surgery.
That must have been pretty scary.
Yeah, very scary. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, I've kind of planned my whole life around being a football player, but now football can actually be done. You know, I could not be a football player anymore. So my next thing was like, okay, who am I as a person? You know, what can I do? Who can I meet? You know, I'm in New York. I'm in a great area, and so I started off by doing an internship. I spent 3 weeks in San Francisco. Did an internship with StubHub. And I learned a lot about myself.
While you were injured.
Yeah.
That's got to be a kind of an unusual thing.
It definitely is. Guys always looked at me like, why don't you know, just chill? But it was like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be the same person I was before. You know, I knew I had the hard work and the work ethic, all that other stuff. But it was like.
So you were concerned about your ability
exactly
to keep playing.
Exactly, and really I was concerned about my future. You know, because football career lasts maybe 2-3 years. So fast forward, you know, as I've been building up contacts and everything, I actually met Rudy through a mutual friend, and he's just been instilling so much information in me, and it's just been, you know, beneficial for myself. And hopefully, you know, I can get on the same level as him with investing, but at least if I can gain some knowledge and pass it on to the next guy, you know, I'll feel great about myself.
Well, let me throw in a question to both of you. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about social media here. But athletes have a real specific connection to social media, and we've talked a lot about how that is empowering athletes in a way that is different from that. It's giving them more control over their brand. I wonder for both of you if you can talk about kind of how that's affected the way you've built your business, and Quincy, about how it's kind of expanded your sense of what you can do with your brand beyond football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, me personally, I don't have any social media at all, so it doesn't affect me directly.
You have a digital newsletter that kind of counts.
That's true. That does count. But you know, he and I always actually talk about of the power of the athlete and how it's growing exponentially. So 1 out of every 3 persons that actually, you know, are on social media follow an athlete, and their reach is extending, you know, further than it's ever been before. I think they're exercising that power in reference to business like never before. I know he's doing a couple of things right now, in essence of touching his fans and doing different things as well too, and extending that reach and building his business around that, so you can, you know.
Quincy, I mean, among non-athletes, right, there's obviously a huge variation in attitudes towards social media. Some people are incredibly diligent, some people are pretty haphazard about it. Is that the same sort of situation in a locker room, in the sense that you have people who are like, I'm making this a mission, and other people are like, that is not my thing?
I definitely say that that's what goes on in the locker room. I think you have so many personalities in the locker room. So you have guys like, say for instance, Kawhi Leonard, you know, he's not a football player, but you look at a guy like him who has no social media presence because that's not really the type of person he is. Then you look at a guy in the football field like Juju Smith-Schuster, and he's all over social media. He has YouTube pages, he does everything. So, I mean, it's a wide spectrum of guys, you know, just like there's a wide spectrum of personalities.
But is there a sense that there's clearly a brand building, like a business reason for being out there?
And I think, you know, as social media grows, you see so many people making money off of social media.
Yeah.
So you can sell T-shirts, you can sell so many different things, and then you can also be a brand partner. And so guys definitely take advantage. I've taken advantage of it.
Yeah, so tell us about that. What's your experience like with social media?
Oh, yeah, my experience has been, I mean, it's a gift and a curse, right? Because it gives people access. And so a lot of times they give their opinions on your performance. But at the same time, you know, like I said, it's a gift, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of interact and really see who does love you as a player and appreciates your abilities, and as well as the brands that appreciate you and really do their research on you and find out what they can do to kind of help you grow your brand as well.
So I want to throw out a question again for both of you, which is kind of a general question about the level of financial savvy. We talked about tech savvy among athletes. Let's talk about financial savvy, right? You know, in the space that I come in Worth Magazine, which does a lot of coverage of finance and wealth management, there was a period a few years ago where all of a sudden every financial firm was talking about how they had to recruit athletes and entertainers. And so a bunch of them came through our offices, the wealth managers who were doing this, and said, well, the big challenge is that, you know, athletes have like a posse that they come with, and they're people who come up with them from the neighborhood or from the streets or whatever, or they want to buy their mother a house, the first contract they get. And it's one of those things where it's hard to tell where truth ends and stereotype begins, and possibly racist stereotype, right? Can you talk about what the reality of that situation actually is?
Well, I think, from the general public standpoint and just propaganda, it's always popular to talk about, someone going broke versus, success, right? So at the end of the day, we'll hear more of those stories than we'll hear about the guys that are actually doing well. I think nowadays, the athletes, much more savvier. I think more athletes, and not to speak for you, Quincy, I think they're more aware now of the pitfalls, just because it's widely reported of the athletes. So there's no athlete that comes into the league that doesn't understand exactly what they're coming up against, right?
Yeah.
No one's blind to it whatsoever, right? So, and then you have gentlemen like this guy right here that are just totally aware of their opportunity, and there's more and more of them like that now. I think these guys, generally speaking, pick up a Forbes magazine before they pick up a Sports Illustrated. I don't know if it's because Sports Illustrated is dead now, but at the same time, they're very, very much aware of the opportunities and just business. So,
I think you actually meant to say Worth magazine.
Worth magazine, yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. There you
But
go.
that's okay, no worries.
And they're much more keen now to again just employing the different opportunities that they have, out there.
Right. Would you say the same?
Definitely. There's obviously, like I said, with the wide spectrum, there's guys that still make those same decisions. Like I said while we were talking outside, I know guys in college who were taking out loans to help their parents from back home.
Yeah.
So, the minute they made it to the league, those same people were still reaching out, trying to grab a piece. So you always have that, and I think there's going to be that in any field, right? If you hit the lottery, people are going to end up trying to get a piece of that. But at the same time, there's so much information out there, so much bad information about how many players go bankrupt, basketball, NFL. So guys try to make sure that they can prevent that for themselves.
And Quincy, if you don't mind, I'm going to make it a little personal for you. We were talking, and you said, the weird thing about being a pro player is that, everybody knows what you make.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say what you make. You signed a 4-year contract not long ago for $34 million.
Yeah.
Congratulations, that's
Thank you.
awesome. I mean, I think when people know how football players, risk their bodies, it doesn't seem, you guys earn your money.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of folks, that sounds like a lot of money compared to, say, athletes in the NBA, it's significantly less. But when you actually figure in agents, cuts, taxes, and you guys pay taxes all over the country, as I understand.
Yeah. Every state we play in, we pay taxes.
Does it give you a big feeling of security knowing that your career is of indeterminate length? You don't know how long you're going to be able to play?
It definitely gives you more security.
Yeah.
But even then, you still don't feel 100% secure.
Right.
Because for one, I haven't touched any of that money yet. It hasn't hit my bank account.
Right.
And anything can happen, right? And another thing is only a certain percentage of it is guaranteed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Right.
as great as it looks up there, it's not exactly what I'm touching.
As I said, I think you guys earn it
I
more than
appreciate
in
it.
any other sport, for sure.
Appreciate it.
Let's get back to the tech question, which is how do you find the companies that you like, and what are the criteria that you look for?
Yeah, it started out with just listening to the right people. So I always say I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I can identify who is, and I've been able to.
Yeah, I always find that the smartest guys in the room are always the ones who say they're not the smartest guys in the room.
So I was lucky enough to have some great advisors that allowed me to co-invest alongside them. So early enough, and just taught me along the way, how to focus on the diligence in companies, and I basically focus on investing in stuff that I understand. So
Right.
as I've gotten more experience, obviously, you get to understand more, and it's widened the base, my investment base.
I want to get 2 more questions in real quick, and then let's see if there's some questions from the audience. One is you do an annual conference. Let's hear a little bit about what you guys do there, and who goes.
Sure. It's called the Players Technology Summit. It's in San Francisco. It's a day and a half of curation of topics that I think the guys that are really interested in reference to tech. So we try to bring top VC CEOs and athletes in one room for a day and correspond, in reference to a panel discussions.
So the final question I've got is I'd love for you to both of you to talk about what this process of turning athletes into investors and equity holders means in a kind of bigger picture way. We've all heard about, the icons who've done this, LeBron, Magic, A-Rod, Michael Jordan, et cetera. But you're trying to extend this to a broader group of folks who traditionally just been, employees whose career after their sport was uncertain, right? Lots of folks have had financial troubles after their retirement from pro sports, or they might invest in, a car wash or a restaurant or something. But what you're really trying to do is empower a group of folks who may not, have not necessarily been in that place before. Are you pretty conscious of that?
For
This
sure.
is a kind of a changing the world sort of thing you're doing.
Well, I don't know if it's changing the world, but I think the idea is, I always tell him that, my children will follow him and what he's doing more so than me, in the future, right? So these are the future leaders. So if I can have a hand in teaching him, exactly how to take advantage of the opportunities and learn and lead, then I think that I'm doing something different, So.
But if you don't mind me pushing a little bit, the worlds of big money investing, of tech, these are pretty white spaces. Right? To bring in a group of athletes, most of whom are African American, it's meaningful.
Yeah. Well,
Quincy,
thank you.
you feel the same way?
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. I think that not only that, but it'll also allow us to kind of put the money back in our own neighborhoods as well. So if we're able to then invest in ourselves, then we can hopefully bring more people up to be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
Let's take a couple questions. Yeah.
Kange, SAP. Quincy, what kind of services does the NFL have to help with wealth management and to help prevent some of the problems we've seen in the past?
They actually offer a lot of things. We do business conferences. We do, like I said, the externship. I actually got that through the NFLPA. So our players union actually does a lot to try to help players out. It's just, I think one of the biggest issues has been people not taking advantage of it. The resources are all there. Like, contrary to popular belief, like, we have all the resources to be successful. It's just that people don't take advantage of it. The thing about being in the NFL is that, you not only do you get money at such a young age and so much of it, but you also get a lot of access. And so it's about what do you access. Some guys access the nightlife and all those other things. So that kind of puts them behind the 8 ball. So I think it's always out there. It's just about taking advantage of it.
I saw a question over here. Okay. I'm sorry. I saw this gentleman over here, and then we'll come right back.
Sure. Hi, Mike Ellison. Two-part question. Should college athletes get paid? And then what can colleges and the NCAA do to sort of help them transition to kind of post-athletic life, in the business world and investing in particular?
I'll start out by just saying definitely they need to get paid. The question is who gets paid and how much, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the consensus is definitely they should get paid. I think it's just who do you divvy up amongst and who gets more, or is it equal? I think that's actually the real question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Definitely, I agree. And then on the other part, it's hard to kind of focus on the investing. That's what you asked, right? Was
Invest about the business and sort of post.
Well, see, the problem is, like, you have a lot of people going to school for different reasons. And so you can't always target the one person or the 10 people that want to make it to the NFL or make it to the NBA, because they also have other things on their plate. You have to go to school, you have to, you have families to take care of sometimes, and you have football. So at that point, it's hard to really then add on, like, let's try to work on investing, you know what I mean? So, I'm sure they could try to do it, but I'm not sure that many people would really jump into it.
I think we got time for one more.
So since the conference is really focused on community and collaboration, I wanted to sort of flip the whole panel on its head, because one of the things that's happening right now is that, especially with sneakers, is sneaker culture is completely going towards consumers. They're the people who are actually buying the sneakers, redesigning them, and selling them, creating a secondary market. So I'm curious, from your guys' perspective, how it's affecting your choices, how it's affecting, like, whether you're thinking now about how to enter the collaboration with the consumers, how you're using social media to actually think about the downstream design effect, so that, because how people are designing their own shoes is really like part of the deal. And it's changing, from my perspective, it's changing the whole economics of shoe design, because the fundamental proceeds of the sale of the shoes is going to the consumers who are buying pairs, creating them, chaining them up, selling them, right? They're making the money. The sneaker company's still making money too. It's not like they're getting cut out of the equation.
Yeah.
But
So the
but that's
question is, how are you guys adapting to the power of the consumer and leverage through social media to drive a market?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with supply chain. So, you know, you have to have a back-end supply chain to support that. So, you know, it's easy to say, you know, from the front end, you know, you have all these followers and you can sell directly to them, but, you know, there's a business behind that. So that hasn't caught up yet. You know, we see the Jenners taking full advantage of that with the back-end supply chain help that they have, but I think that that'll multiply. But again, the sneaker market's going to change. You know, it's going to get taken away from the consumer, I think, sooner than later, and that secondary marketplace as well. That's changing as we speak.
Guys,
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
just bought a secondary market.
Yeah.
I think that we could take a bunch more questions. I'm sorry. I think I think we need to wrap up. We're standing between people and their alcohol. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you both so
No,
much.
thank you for having us.
And thanks to all of you.
Thank you.